So often you can get stuck in analysis paralysis. I'm sure that's a term that, everybody throws around, but it is, you could sit and look and look and look and look, and until you go actually do something, then you're not going to really know. And that was part of it. It's like, I'm just going to go and I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure it out. I know how to, luckily my dad taught us how to swing a hammer when we were kids, and I knew how to do some work. And I was like, if I have to fix it up, I'll fix it up.
Hey there, I am Dr. Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast, where we explore the why behind success. Every week, I meet with real estate investors, veterinary entrepreneurs, mindset coaches, authors, and fitness professionals to uncover their why and how it drives them on the winding road to success. What is your why?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today, I'm here with Randal McLeaird. He's a seasoned real estate professional with a rich history of involvement of over 500 real estate transactions. There's a lot of good stuff here in this bio, Randal, but like I told you, I'm going to let you tell your story. But first, I just want to say thank you. I do appreciate you coming on the show, taking the time out to come talk to me and provide value to my listeners. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Jason. It's great to be on, and I'm looking forward to the conversation. Like I said, I was going through some of the stuff that you're working on and impressed with what you do. So happy to be here. Excited for the conversation.
Yeah. Appreciate that very much. Let's start with your story. I mean, we sort of jokingly before we started recording, and start back at childhood, start wherever you want, and just so people can kind of know your background, what brought you into real estate, and a little bit of that story, and then we'll dig deeper.
Sure. Well, really, I got into real estate. When I graduated college, I ended up working for a buddy of mine who shares the same birthday as me. Went to high school with me, and he didn't go to college. And I got out of college, went to work for him. And so that's kind of where I started getting into real estate. When I was in college, I was thinking about how nice it would be. I was in New Orleans, how nice it would be to own one of the houses that all of us were living in. And so I was thinking about it then, didn't have the means, didn't have the knowledge, didn't know how to get into that, and grew up from a, modest means family. And so again, when I got out of college and went to work for a friend of mine who again shared the same birthday, same school, didn't go to college. It was eye-opening to me to go see him doing mortgages. He had multiple properties and lots of toys, lots of things, assets, and that sort of thing. And that's really what clued me in. He gave me a book. It was Rich Dad Poor Dad, as many people have read and gotten into. And that opened my eyes to getting into owning assets and things that will appreciate over time. Fast forward, right? That was 2004. And, ended up living overseas in Australia, trying to get into real estate over there, doing a few things, and finally came back in 2008. And I was like, this is the time. I'm going to, start buying some properties. And obviously 2008, everybody knows what happened. So I started looking for jobs. I was thinking about going back to law school. And one of the things that I did in preparation to go to law school was I started working for an attorney, and the attorney was local here in San Antonio. I met him at a real estate meetup, and it opened my eyes to the transactional side of real estate and single family investing. And I was an escrow officer for him, closing a lot of deals for real estate investors around this time where properties were trading for, $20,000, $15,000, that sort of thing. And so decided not to go to law school because I sat in on some classes, didn't really want to go back and do the brain damage that was associated with that. I really just wanted to, again, get into owning the property and having the freedom of being a real estate owner. And so I remember the very first deal that I did was a deal with, I was closing a deal with this lady, and she came into the office. It was a $15,000 transaction that she had under contract with this investor, and the investor walked the day of closing. I think I had $10,000 in my bank account, and I wanted to buy a house, and the buyer never showed up. And I said, hey, look, I got 10 grand. I'll give you 10 grand for the house. Sight unseen, never seen it. This guy was going to pay 15. I'll give you 10. And so that was the very first house that I bought. Sight unseen. I remember driving up to it, and I had this little white Suzuki, like beep beep little, still not doing well financially, whatever. But I show up to this house and there's a massive hole in the roof. And I was like, oh crap, what have I done? What did I just get myself into? Anyway, ended up selling that house for $15,000 without doing any work to it. And so, pretty good return on your money. And that's really how I got started. Yeah, that was one of the first deals. That same owner sold me a lot across the street. What is interesting is what I do now is very similar to this other transaction. So she sold me a lot across the street. I think I paid $1,000 for the lot. A buyer came to me and I was going to owner finance a lot. I said, give me $1,000 down and then I'll carry a note for $2,000. And so I got payments on that $2,000. So I owned this lot free and clear, basically traded the money from me to the seller. And that's what we have transitioned into like a lot right now. So we do a lot of owner finance deals now. So it's been a long road. Lot more to go into that if you want to dive into some other things, but that's the transition of how I got into real estate from not being in real estate.
Yeah. Well, the point about, sort of going to work for a friend who, didn't go to college that you went to, this ends up being a topic not uncommonly on the podcast amongst entrepreneurs and even like I have young kids and I like when my son was born, we started a college fund thing for him. And I didn't do one for my daughter, not because I love my daughter less, but my excitement about them definitely going to college is just not there anymore. And it's just a question of the value. And I think, you could look at it strictly from a time spent, right? You spend 4 years in college, your friend spent 4 years already starting their career, making money, that kind of thing. There are certain things that you need to go to college for to get, a degree as a doctor or an attorney or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, unless you're sure that's what you want to do, it's maybe not, sort of the no-brainer decision that I think, at least when I was growing up, like that was what it was supposed to be. And so, having that perspective, I actually think is pretty interesting and eye-opening. And then the other piece about this that always interests me that in your stories is if you're on the transactional side of real estate, meaning like you work for the title company, you work for the real estate attorney, you work for one of the brokers. What always shocks me is how few of them are actually investing in real estate.
For sure.
Like you have it all right in front of you. Like, I've asked brokers this before, like the brokers I've worked with on deals, the brokers I've had on the podcast. I'm like, why don't you just take them? Why don't you do all of the deals like the people that are getting, sort of first access to those good deals? And I think it just comes down to mindset around being an entrepreneur and being a real estate investor, and like taking that as that is your sort of lead proposition, if you will. Like you're kind of self-reliant right from day one. How, you have those couple of examples in your story, but what about that sort of move into, I mean, you took a chance, right? I'll buy this for $10,000. It because they didn't have anyone to sell it to. Like in today's real estate market, that's not very much money, but when that was all the money that you had, it's still like taking a leap and sort of having the mindset to do it. What kind of things went through your mind then? Like what was your thought process?
Well, to qualify that a little bit, I was heavily involved in many aspects. So in 2004, when I got out of college, I had been a loan officer for 3 years or so. So I had seen the mortgage side of the transaction. And then when I was in Australia, I was studying rent to own, lease option, sandwich lease option, all these different things, and trying to get into it over there. And so again, I was learning throughout this process. And then when I got back to the States and I was working for the attorney, I got to see the title side, right? So is this title clear? Am I going to get a decent property? That sort of thing. So I saw that, and I got to see a lot of other transactions that were happening, what investors were buying, And at the same time, the attorney was very encouraging, saying you need to go see as many properties as you can. Just always go look. You got to be out there, go look, no matter if you're buying or not, just go look and tour properties. It's like, okay. So I'd been doing all of those things. That said, I'd never seen this house. I'd never been down the street. I'd never been to that side of town. And in 2008, honestly, the first drive I took down this side of the city freaked me out because most of the people had burned their houses down just in lieu of either trying to get insurance, right? Because they couldn't make their mortgage payments and they were going to get foreclosed on. So it was like a concrete, the sidewalk, and then like a concrete kind of stoop. And then so many houses were just leveled. All you could see were foundation. So when I'm driving up, I thought I had just bought a foundation. So I was pretty freaked out. And then, and there were just a bunch of people, homeless people out. There was a bunch of bail bondsmen, like shops leading into the neighborhood. So I was like, and again, little me in this white Suzuki, it was kind of a comical view. So to speak to, taking the leap of faith to buy something, I, again, have to address the fact that I had done a lot of groundwork and I got very comfortable with, look, I need to buy something and do something. But yeah, it was, I may have had, $12,000 to my name at the time. I'd been traveling. I just got back and I was working for a nominal amount of money. And so, yeah, I think it just takes the ability to know that if you're going to buy an asset, then that asset is unlikely to lose all of its value in the short term that you are, so I took a calculated risk saying $10,000, somebody else was willing to pay 15. I knew the other investor actually. And I said, if nothing else, I could probably rent this thing out and fix it up and rent it out and make some money on this deal. Right. And it's the fact of just getting off my tail and going to do something. Right. So often you can get stuck in analysis paralysis. I'm sure that's a term that, everybody throws around, but it is, you could sit and look and look and look and look, and until you go actually do something, then you're not going to really know. And that was part of it. It was like, I'm just going to go and I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure it out. I know how to, luckily my dad taught us how to swing a hammer when we were kids, and I knew how to do some work. And I was like, if I have to fix it up, I'll fix it up. So I don't know if that answered your question. Kind of went in a roundabout.
Yeah, I think,
yeah.
In a general sense, it's, our experiences leading up to it. It's just that willingness to take a calculated risk. Like, you're not necessarily going to win on every single investment. You're not going to win on every single real estate deal, but ultimately, you got to start somewhere and take, there are some risks involved with it. So it sounds a little bit like you were effectively wholesaling. You bought it and kind of sold it to someone else.
Pretty much.
with the land piece.
Yeah.
And did the seller financing. So 2008, 2009, 2010, I guess if you were in real estate before that, challenges were experienced. But I do think then, kind of after that, we had quite a nice market for a while. How did you sort of grow and expand your portfolio from there?
So yeah, I ended up getting my real estate license and my broker license, and always with the aim to just acquire property, right? I didn't like the whole wholesale thing aspect of the business. I always thought it was used car salesman-y, and it was really taking advantage of a seller in a sense. And I always wanted to be the one that had a product, the product being a house that I could then sell. So yeah, we ramped up, and I was, buying a number of properties. I think after that same year, I ended up buying, I don't know, probably 4 more houses that we owner financed, and I still have notes on those today. Right. And so that was a strategy that I really wanted. I wanted the cash flow, but I didn't want the issues of tenants and toilets. And so that's the strategy that I came up with, and created a bunch of notes around that. And they've been fantastic. Right. 2018, 19, we were doing 50, 60 transactions a year. 2020, that sort of thing. COVID hit, and then that was when, if you want to talk about know your why, I had kids and all the things. That's kind of when things changed. So we shut down the wholesale business, we shut down the rehab business, and really just I took a break and I started figuring out what it is, how we want our lives to look. So we can talk about that a bit. But if you want to talk about the college thing again, in my take on the college thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to cover that real fast?
Yeah.
So my take, and I tell my wife this, it is I really, having gone through that experience myself, I really think that, and I want to encourage my kids to really take a moment when they're 18. Do you want to go travel overseas? Do you want to go see something else?
Yeah.
Like you're pretty young and you don't know exactly what you want to do unless you are going on one of those routes where this is what I've been planning for my whole life and this is what I want to do. So I'm very much for that train of thought. And we've even now, like there's 6, it's about to be 7. My daughter's 4. I've looked at schools that teach hands-on training, building businesses, that sort of thing, alternative educations, just because I think that's a big thing. We don't teach our kids enough real world experiences in the current education system. So
yeah,
we don't have to make this a political podcast or an educational
no.
podcast, but it's
no, but it's I mean, just the number of times, like even on this podcast or just in like talking to people that I've said, we don't learn how to be financially responsible. We don't learn about financial freedom. Nobody taught me about money, blah, 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 all of this stuff. And it's like, yeah, there's a ton of other things that are important in life, but also like, it just makes everything easier. It just makes everything easier if you have an understanding of like real life skills, like things that are going to be applicable to running a business or being an investor or whatever. Like you can still do whatever you want. You just have to have that other piece of you that is like, knows about how to take care of yourself financially. So it's not a struggle for the whole life. And that's what really, I guess that's what it comes down to. Like, I don't want my kids' whole life to be a struggle because they're financially strapped. Like, I want them to understand these concepts and do the right thing to keep themselves safe so that they can have choices. And
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
It's just something it's something that I didn't really recognize until I was in my 40s. And it's like, the power of them understanding it in their teen 20s, like it can be really life-changing. So that's to me, that just it's all about like education and communication over these topics.
Yeah. Well, I think that plays into what we were talking about a minute ago about the being in the service-based business, being a broker, being an attorney, and not investing. And that's because you're either afraid of it, and so you're risk off, and you never educated yourself on how to manage that process on your own. And so perhaps if you went out and did one of these types of deals, I talk about this a lot on the podcast. I'm always agents building cash flow. That is what, it's like, how can you turn your commission into a cash flow, right? Don't just work in the service-based business, go out and actually buy something for yourself. And I think, again, the education system, if you learn that early on and you realize that it's not a big risk, like I bought that house, $10,000. If I would have lost $2,000, sold it for $8,000, lost $5,000, sold it for $5,000, I still would have gone through the experience and learned it. And and so you're paying for the education one way or the other. So yeah.
No, I think it's an important point, and we're not going to change the education system in this hour, but it's
nope, unfortunately.
But it's definitely something that I think a lot about, like with my own kids.
Yeah.
And it's like, part of me, I'm like, okay, wait, when are they old enough to like really start to recognize these things? But you said, Randall, for you, things changed in 2020. Like, how did they change? What was, kind of what shift did you make? I know you said you sort of looked at how you wanted your life to look. So what were some of the things that came into play?
Well, it really, when my son was born in 2017, I want to say 2020, I was looking at it and I said in 10 years, he's going to be 13. He's going to be 13 years old. I'm going to be 50, right? I think that was the other thing. I was turning 40. And I was like, how do I want my life to look? How are we going to keep doing what we're doing? And again, chasing money. That's kind of the shift. Like I always like, we need to make some money. Coming from my background and how I was raised and not having a lot of money, I always wanted to be financially fit and stable and secure and not have to worry about money. Like it's when that stress is gone, your life changes, right?
Mhm.
And so getting to that point and having, not being stressed financially, you can take a step back and look at it and say, am I doing what I really want to be doing? And do I want to do this for the rest of my life? And the answer for me was no, right? We were wholesaling. We had a team and we were, doing a lot of deals and transactions were there. But again, it was not the type of life that I wanted to live and not the reason I got into real estate. I didn't get into real estate so that I could just do high volume transaction all the time. It was like, I want to go travel. I want to be with my family. And so whenever COVID hit, like so many people, it gave me a chance to just sit back, reflect. I was, doing woodworking in the garage, building things, doing all kinds of stuff, spending time with the family. And I just did not, money is very important for your livelihood, for you to provide for your family and to do all the things that you want to do. But again, having children really impacted the way I looked at everything. The most important thing is family. And, if you don't have your familial relationships and you don't spend time with them, I mean, to me, that what else is there, right? So that all happened around the same time. And so I sat back and started looking at what I want to be doing and started looking at commercial real estate, started looking at funds and started looking at syndications and just going for bigger transactions, working with, again, one of the big things that I always have had a struggle with and a hard time with on the single family side is just getting a contractor sending you a text invoice, right? It's like, I need to be paid in 15 minutes, this $15,000, you're like, okay, this is not run in a professional manner. And it's like, and then they get mad at you and then they don't show up. And so it's all these things that just felt so unprofessional. And I did not want that anymore. Right. And so, yeah, I put a pause on all of those things. And so we got into learning funds and so we've now launched a fund and we're still doing some single family and we have a crowd fund that we're doing the single family on. But we have an eye to the development deals and to the other larger transactions that we've also been involved in, some apartment complexes and that sort of thing. So again, just dealing with a different type of clientele or different type of professional in the space, working with third-party property management companies so that, it is a business that you're running that you're managing rather than being in the business, like swinging the hammer type of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, no, I completely understand it. I mean, that was funny enough. I mean, it was 2020 for me when I started to get into syndication. It was because my son, like, I just realized my kids are slightly younger than yours. My son was born in
like, are we the same guy? Like, what are we doing here?
I know there's a lot of the stuff you're saying. I'm like, oh, this is very similar. But yeah, it's just the beauty of, sort of scaling your real estate career, investment, whatever, is it can become a business, and a business that you don't have to be, like you said, like swinging the hammer. Because I mean, that was like my background in construction and things like that. One of the first things I thought was, oh, we'll just start flipping houses. And I'm like, that gets me another job. Like that really just gets me another job. And I won't be spending more time with family doing that. Like, I think it will be fun someday to flip houses with my kids. Like, just literally, like, I want them to know those skills, or at least understand the language around, building a house or whatever. So if they want to be involved, they don't get taken advantage of at the very least. But it is just kind of the larger scale deals, like you said, it just allows it to be much more of a business, because you have third party property management, and you can be working with construction companies and contractors that are used to working on these large scale projects. And so it's not, I don't want to, this is not to say that I even think this is a bad thing, but like, you're not picking up the guys at Home Depot to come help you for the day. Like, it's not that same idea. I have picked up guys at Home Depot to come help me for the day.
I just did like 4 months ago.
It's like, right. It's like I've met some really, really good guys and good workers doing that, but it's not how how it operates at the large scale, whether it's apartment complex or offices or self-storage, whatever. When you're doing big transactions, you have to be able to do large scale projects at a pace that makes sense as well. So it's kind of like the smaller contractors, they're not equipped to quickly turn 15 or 20 apartments in a month. It's just not, they don't have that level of ability. It's just not what they're used to. So completely understand kind of that concept and that shift. So I think this is an important thing for people, that like, you shut down the other stuff to an extent, or maybe downsized what you were doing. There's always got to be, so the idea, at least for me, like the idea is to someday, especially when we talk about spending time with families, like to someday have work be completely optional. So combining passive income with the active income, and the active income can be whatever you want it to be. It can be in real estate, or you can be an attorney or what, but it's like, if you're not doing both, you're going to be stuck. You need, even if you're in that passive world, you need to have had some income to get you to be able to create passive income from. So it's like, you can use real estate for that, or you can use your job and invest in your fund. And I think that's sometimes people, maybe you see on social media or whatever. Become a passive investor, or become a real estate investor in general. It's like, it's going to be great. You're going to make lots of money. And it does take time. And like, your story is, we're talking decade plus. And also, you said, I'm looking at when my son's 13. So it's like, you do have to develop this like long-term mindset. It's not going to happen overnight. And how do you manage that? How do you maintain, kind of that thought process?
In the sense of staying motivated to continue the same process, or what do you mean? I think you have to combine the now, in terms of there's got to be some income producing activity, and then also like, how do you look at things from such a long term? Because I think people don't, like, a lot of people don't, and that's where they miss out. It's like, but what gets missed is you're gonna struggle one way or the other. You're gonna struggle for a short time to create lack of struggle later, or you're just gonna struggle forever, because you're never gonna have that kind of cushion, if you will. I mean, early on, I don't know, a book I read, it was do the things that you don't want to do, so you can do the things you want to do. There's some kind of quote like that, where it's do the hard things. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? It's whatever, saying you want to go by, right? Yeah. But I've always looked at it in the lifestyle design. I talked to my wife about this. I'm like, how do you want our lives to look? And she's like, it's such a big question. I don't know. Yeah. We have this conversation a lot, and it is. But if you don't sit and you don't do that work, and you don't really plan out and say, this is how I want my life to look, then you're just going to end up reactive. You're going to react to whatever comes your way. You're going to stay in your job. You're not going to make any moves to invest or make a change or better your life. I mean, just in general, that is, that's how I feel about it. And so I've always looked at it, again, I mean, you can do some simple math even, not just how I look at it, but in general, if you're like, I want to not work when I'm 50 years old. Okay. How much do I need? How much of a nut do I need in order to invest? At what rate of return is that going to, simple math is going to tell you what you can do. Unless you start buying assets or businesses that are producing income, and they grow over time and appreciate over time and pay you more and more and more over time, right? If you're just going to be a passive investor, then you're going to be kind of locked into some sort of rate of return, I would think. So the way I look at it, again, it is I want to be able to spend as much time with my family as I can currently, and then at some point not have to not have to work, but at the same time I'll continue where I feel like I won't stop working, but I'll be working on things that are interesting. I heard a podcast the other day, RFK Jr.'s talking about his upbringing and how they were brought up, and he was like, in our household there was no discussion about income generating or what you were doing, as long as you were working on something interesting. And so on my board over here, it says, am I working on anything interesting? Because that is really where I'm at. I want to be working on interesting projects. I want to be working on interesting businesses that keep me active mentally. And sure, there's some promise of upside income potential, but is it interesting, right? And so if I have that in the back of my mind while I'm working on the tried and true business that is the bread and butter of what has produced income for me and my family over the past, then okay, I know I've got these projects that are just stacked up, and I'm just manipulating this business in order to be less hands-on. Then I have the opportunity and I free up my time so that I can work on all these other things that I really want to work on, that are interesting, that are fun, that could produce forever and ever, right? So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, I love that. But I definitely had a shift over these last few years of I want to work. The way you put it is perfect. But like, I want to work on interesting things, but also I want to work with who I want to work with. Like,
Yeah.
I want that to me. I want to work with people that are exciting to be around and sort of grow with. That to me is as big a part of it as anything. And part of that is my family. Like I want to work with my family in some capacity, whatever that means. And it's just such a important point that you made about lifestyle design, because I would say, yes, it is a hard question. Like I've had this conversation with my wife, and it's a hard question for me to answer sometimes. Like, what do I really like? What is my, people are like, what's your perfect day? I'm like, I don't know. I really like to go to the gym in the morning. I want to spend time with like, I don't know what exactly it looks like, but like, I also like when you're working on interesting things, like I like a part of the day to be some work, because I get growth and stimulation out of that. But as you were saying, talking about that sort of lifestyle design, I'm thinking, like, if you don't think about those questions, it doesn't have to be like a perfect set in stone answer, but if you don't think about those things, it's just being designed for you.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Your life is happening one way or the other. And if you don't think about that lifestyle design, then the design is you work until you can't anymore. Hopefully you have some money for retirement, and hopefully you don't run out of it or before you die. Like that's the traditional model. And yes, you can do the math, but like most of that math is based on living 25 years after you retire. And like, so that means in order to really be right, you have to know when you're going to die, and you can work up to 25 years, before, even if you manage to set all that aside. And so it's like having assets that are continuing to grow and produce income and appreciate over time, whether that's real estate or businesses or whatever it is, whatever you want to use as that vehicle. If you're not doing something like that, then something's being designed for you. And so I just, when you said that, I was like, yeah, not even sure if I ever necessarily thought about it exactly that way, but it is, something's being designed. It's just, are you the creator, or are you, kind of playing a role in that design?
Don't be an NPC. What is it? Non-player character? Yeah. Don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Design it. Yeah. I mean, I really, I think honestly, man, you gotta decide what you want to do and go after it. It's one of those, it's just one of those things that, yeah, have thought about that a lot. And I think it was back in, oh man, I don't know if it was like 4 Hour Work Week or some book I read way back in the day. And I was like, oh, you could do this. You don't have to, work 9 to 5. Oh, wow. It's something that clicked in,
Yeah. You first have to believe it. You have to believe it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this kind of stuff I think is incredibly important, but just in the interest of not keeping you here all day, I'll move to sort of asking you the questions that I ask every guest. First one's based on the name of the show being Know Your Why. So Randal, what is your why? What I'm sure some of this you've talked about, but you've had a lot of success. Yep. You've been doing this a while. Like, what keeps you going?
Yeah, again, it's the family. I was thinking the other day, I was like, it's a morbid thought, but if I died, what is happening? What am I leaving behind? What does that look like for my kids? And would they be proud of the things that I've done and what I've left them and that sort of thing? And so my why, it is the family. It is being able to spend time with them, being present for their soccer games, for my daughter dancing around, letting her paint my face, all the things, right? That is the most important stuff to me right now, and taking trips to the wife and kids. So that's what's driving me, and anything that I can do that provides that opportunity and lets me afford their schools that they want to go to and the activities they want to do, like that's what it is. I don't need to be a billionaire, but as long as we're all happy and together, then it's great.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think at the risk of sounding self-promotional, I think, back to the concept of constructing your life, maybe the first question to answer is, what is your why? Like what is the, if it's family, then what does it mean to me to be present for my family and build around that? If your why is some sort of charitable cause or something like that, like, okay, well, I'm gonna construct around that. What does it look like to make the driver really come true? And so I think it's just such powerful stuff if you let yourself kind of open up to it.
Yeah. That's what happened. I'll just touch on that again. That's what happened in 2020, right? We were cranking out, doing a lot of work, but we were working all the time. We were always busy, always something was going on. And we still spent a lot of time with family all the time, but I really wanted to redesign it, So yeah, around that is how we got to where we are right now.
Yeah.
To your point.
Yeah. The first, like, it's like when you start to think that way, it's like the idea of me missing something is like devastating. Like you're like, oh, one of the kids has X event, and you're like, oh, I can't be there that day because I'm working. And I'm like, nah, that's not not going to be my answer. Like, that's not going to be my answer anymore. Like, it's going to be, I'm going to be in charge of that.
It's fantastic to show up, and then you see the joy on their face. You get it on video, you do your thing, and then you can share that moment with them. It was funny. We went to a birthday party this weekend, and there's a guy who's friends. His son is friends with my son, and he's always up for anything, right? He's always up. We go to the same temple. He's just a funny guy, right? But he's always up for whatever it is with kids, because he's very much in the same boat of, I want to be present for my kids, always be there. Yeah. Anyway, we go to a roller rink this weekend, and no other dads are out there skating. Nobody's doing, and he rolls up. He's like, "Hey man, get your ass out here. Come on, let's go." I was like, all right. So I jump out there with him, and just being out there with my kids, just being up for it. And that's the stuff that I want to be able to do. It's always being present, even though that was on the weekend. You could typically make those things, but that's the whole thing, man. That's what it's all about.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, totally agree. Tell us something about yourself that isn't common knowledge. Special skill, a hobby, anything to let people know you better.
Oh, wow. Something common, something about myself. I play a lot of pickleball. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
not uncommon
Is it
for
new?
local, but is it new? No, I've been playing for probably 2 years,
Okay.
but it changed my life, honestly. Like, it's crazy. I used to play golf more often. I don't play golf. I got a set of clubs sitting back there. They haven't moved in a while, because it's just an interesting transition. An old lender of mine, actually, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, he was telling me, like, "Hey man, I'm out here playing pickleball. What is pickle?" I had no idea. And didn't start playing until my brother actually got me into it. And now it's like the only real sport that I play other than sand volleyball. But it's a very social sport. I don't know if you play, but that is, when I look at, am I doing anything interesting? Like, I'm meeting a guy tomorrow. We're talking about real estate, pickleball real estate, and there's multiple people in San Antonio that I've been talking to about doing something with pickleball on the business side, maybe franchise opportunities to,
Oh yeah.
And so that's my interesting long-term thing that I'm looking at.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't played. I would play. It looks like fun, but it's everywhere now. Like,
Oh yeah.
and I don't know, I'm not even 100% sure, like, when that, like, transition happened, but like, I play soccer on Sundays, and
Yeah.
one of the fields that we play at, it used to have tennis courts, and they turned like the entire tennis court area into pickleball courts. And it's like, so I go there, and I just hear tick 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 back and forth the whole time we're playing soccer. Like, and it's literally always full. Every court is full every time I've been there.
So here's why I think about it. So we went to Breckenridge this past month, and I had a choice. I could either take my clubs, or I could have taken clubs, played golf up there, or I could have, taken pickleball paddle. Super small, compact, easy, can find a game very easily. And I was talking to my father-in-law about this. He plays golf all the time. And I was like, I would have met maybe 1 or 2 people if I played golf and spent 4 or 5 hours, been away from the family. Or, I could go play pickleball, and I'm rotating. I met 30 people. We're talking about real estate up there, like what it's like to own property up there. They're telling me hikes I should go on. So it's a much more social sport in the sense of meeting people around the country. If you travel, meeting people in your city, and being able to play with a bunch of different skill levels. Tennis, huge court. You're chasing balls down. It's fun. I played tennis a bit, but I mean, you miss a ball, you could shoot it over the fence really easily. It's a wiffle ball with pickleball. So it's a more approachable sport. And I don't know, it's just fun. So that's why.
That's an interesting, I've never heard that take on it, but actually, like I said, I haven't played, but it seems, I've played tennis. I've played ping pong. Like, I've played racquetball. I've played a bunch of other racket sports.
You pick it up pretty quickly then.
Putting it as a, because I don't play golf. Like, I've gone to a driving range. I've been on golf courses before, but I'm terrible. And so it's not something that, like, I would never intentionally go golfing because I wanted to, like, make business connections, because it would just be embarrassing. So it's like, but pickleball, I feel like I could probably get out there and not be terrible and have those, same interactions with apparently more. So now, like, all right, I got to get a pickleball.
I mean, look, I'll tell you, I don't look at it as business at all. That's the fun thing about it for me. Like, some of these conversations are happening because I play, and because I enjoy the sport. But it's an enjoyable sport. Like, go out and play, and those things are just a byproduct. I think that's any kind of networking that you do. If you're genuinely interested in, a cause or something, you're going to end up making those connections with people. But, it's a fun sport regardless. Get out, man. Go play.
Amazing.
Where are you? Where are you located?
I'm in Los Angeles.
LA. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure you guys got plenty of courts.
Yeah, like I said, there's this one. I know that on Sunday mornings there's always people there, but I'm sure there's no shortage of courts around. When people hear this and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way?
You can go to my website. It's ridgelineig.com. Ridgeline. It's like a ridge line, and then IG for investmentgroup.com. And
we'll have
there's a little chat bot down there. You guys can just chat on there. It sends a text message to our team. If you're interested, I mean, we have a crowdfund that we're running right now. It is a single family crowdfund. We're raising $5 million to go and acquire single family properties in the San Antonio market. And then we are fixing them up, providing, nice, stable housing for people who need owner financing. And so we're owner financing, we're creating those notes and holding those notes. And so that's one of the offerings that we've got going on right now. And that's on Ridgeline as well. Or if you want to check out the pod, you go to the pod. agentsbuildingcashflow.com. Yeah, we teach, we do all kinds of stuff. It's very similar to what you guys are working on, man. You are I'm looking at the assets that you guys have and the things that you've been working on. So I know we're not talking
have TikTok,
all that
though. I don't have TikTok.
I have the talk. I'm on the tick.
There you go. You've got one more than me. I don't have TikTok. That's one that I'm always afraid I would have to dance. So I never got on TikTok. But I
do some ice challenge or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, this has been awesome, Randall. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything you shared with us. I think people get a lot of value here and should definitely connect. So thank you for taking the time out today. It's
for sure.
Genuinely do
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good catching up.
Yeah. And folks listening, I know you're going to love this one. Please connect with Randall and please like, rate, and review the show so we can continue to get more great guests. Thank you all for listening.
Hey there, I am Dr. Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast, where we explore the why behind success. Every week, I meet with real estate investors, veterinary entrepreneurs, mindset coaches, authors, and fitness professionals to uncover their why and how it drives them on the winding road to success. What is your why?